Here's something I've noticed, maybe you've noticed it too. Most church tech advice comes from mega churches, like churches over 5,000 people, not from your typical size church. They come from churches with entire IT departments, and I know that most churches don't have that. And in this video, I want to pull back the curtain for you on our exact tech stack, and I'm going to break down for you what it costs for us every single month. Let's talk about it. If we haven't met before, I'm Thomas, I'm the founder of ReachRight, and I'm also an executive pastor at my church in Honolulu, Hawaii. We have about 300 people in typical attendance, and as someone that runs a tech company, as well as pays the bills at a local mid-sized church, I thought it might be helpful for a pastor like you or me to kind of get you a breakdown of the things that we're using. I've broken it down into 8 different categories based on different functions in the church, and at the end, I'm gonna give you a breakdown of exactly what we spend on each category and the total cost for us every single month. Let's start out with the first category, and it is our foundation, which is our church management software. You have lots of choices on this, but I have found that the vast majority of small to medium-sized and even pushing large churches are using a similar system, and that is Planning Center. We use 5 parts of their software: people, services, events, groups, and check-ins. I'm actually working on a video right now where I'm gonna give you my honest review of Planning Center, but for today, you need to know that's our backbone of our tech stack, and we pay $165 a month total for our church here in Honolulu. After our backbone, we get into like our Sunday services software, and most of this doesn't really cost us anything. Our Sunday services run on Planning Center services, so I already covered that in the previous one. We use Planning Center services to organize all of our volunteers on a Sunday, from our worship team to our greeters and our sound and tech team, our Levites that help set the building up. Everybody is in Planning Center services, so it remains our backbone for this area. We use OBS for recording all of our services, and someone could use that to live stream their services, but for a variety of reasons, which I covered in this video here, I don't recommend that most churches live stream. Other than that, we use Adobe and the Creative Cloud for doing the editing on our actual video files and some of the audio files that we put together. Those 3 things kind of form the foundation of the software that we use on Sunday for our actual production. What do we actually use to communicate with our members during the week? Well, let's talk about those. We, like most churches, use the entire Google Workspace suite. So included in that is Gmail. So all of our one-to-one emails are all done through Gmail. The great news about that is that it costs churches nothing if you are set up as a nonprofit. I have a whole other video that I'll leave a link to in the description that breaks down all the benefits of the Google for Nonprofits program. Beyond that, our church uses Text in Church. I love this software. It lets us send mass texts to our entire church, and we actually integrate it with Planning Center so that we can execute some of our workflows so that people will get specific texts at specific times if they're newer to our church. We pay $56 a month for Text in Church. From there, we have our broadcast email system, which is MailChimp. That's what we use here. We use this to handle our weekly newsletter, and for a lot of churches, it probably won't cost you anything. They have a very generous free tier, but for us, at 300 people and an email list of about 1,500, we pay $45 a month for MailChimp. Finally, for our social media publishing side of things, we'll get to the creative part of social media later. We have one software that we use for that, and we use Vista Social for our post planning. We pay $39 a month for us, and the great thing is it lets us plan all of our posts in 1 or 2 hours once a week instead of having to go in there every single day and put new posts out to be published. So that's communication. Now let's talk about money, and not surprisingly, this is our most expensive category in our entire tech stack. Now, Planning Center has an online giving system, and we did use that for years, but about a year ago, we elected to make a move and we changed over to Overflow. The reasons for that are many, but 2 of the big ones is it let us process both crypto and stock donations really seamlessly, and that's been amazing. We've had people give both cryptocurrency and stock to our church, and there are huge tax benefits to doing that, but the problem for most churches is it's really complicated to receive that. Overflow has made it super easy for us by really taking all of the work out of it. The moment we get one of those donations, it gets immediately liquidated and it's in our account in a few days. We spend $4,000 a year, or $333 a month, to have the full stack of online giving through Overflow. It also lets people give with Apple Pay and Google Pay, which really reduces friction and makes giving much easier. And as far as pricing, that only covers the actual subscription cost. Of course, course, there's other fees for individual transactions. There's credit card fees, there's stock transaction fees. It really does add up, but as far as the fixed cost that we're paying for a church our size, it's $333 a month. From there, we also have our accounting software. And while you have lots of options on this, we use Aplos. Aplos has been really easy for us because it's a tailored accounting software that's really made for churches. Could you get away with a QuickBooks or some other kind of a software? Probably, but I love the fact that it's tailored to churches and already just ready to go out of the box. It's been great for us, and we pay $129 a month for that. So that's the money. Now let's talk about the front door to our church. And that's, of course, what we're doing online, specifically our website. For that, we're using WordPress, and we're using the X theme as our theme on there. Now, I still love WordPress. A lot of people have mixed feelings about it. I think if it's set up properly, it is still the best content management system that's out there. It doesn't cost anything, and the X theme, like most themes, doesn't cost a ton either. But where there is cost is you will have to pay for hosting. Now, my church runs that through ReachRite, and at ReachRite, I can tell you, we use WP Engine for all of our hosting. It is, bar none, the best hosting for any WordPress site, or I would say even any site out there. That costs us through ReachRite $97 a month. If you need a church website, I'm sure ReachRite can help your church as well. I'll leave a link to that down in the description. For our forms on our site, we use a combination of both Gravity Forms, which is a paid plugin that'll cost you about $39 a year, but more often than not, we use Planning Center and their forms, because most of the time that we're asking people to fill out a form, it's for some kind of a event registration or a sign up for a group or something to that effect. And using something that's native and already built into our church management software makes things really seamless. For our calendar, we use Modern Events Calendar. That's something that's included with the X theme. It makes it really easy to create events and a really good looking calendar on your site. At our church, we use a calendar plugin in WordPress to make a top-notch calendar that really looks good on our site. Finally, like most churches, we use YouTube for all of our video storage and our publishing. We upload to YouTube every Sunday. We embed that into our site. There's also the discoverability that happens on the YouTube platform. I've done entire videos on that as well. I'll leave a link to it down in the description. All right, so website handled. Now, how do we actually run our office? Let's get into our office infrastructure. The primary tool we use for that I've already discussed, and it's the Google Workspace. Now, again, for nonprofits, this is totally free. If you haven't already checked it out, I have made a video that has been super helpful to lots of churches about exactly how you can sign up for all these softwares that I'm talking about that are free. So you really do want to check out that video. Our entire church internal calendar runs on the Google Calendar. I run my life on the Google Calendar, and everybody in our staff shares events on Google Calendar. Having everybody on that same system is super helpful. And like I said, we use Drive for the document storage side of things. Our church uses Basecamp, and this is our main project management software. But right now, I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit lukewarm on Basecamp. It's been good to us, but here's my rub, is that I feel like it does lots of things okay, but nothing really great. It serves as our file storage and our project management, and even like one of our internal communication tools. But I'm finding we're doing all of these things with other software pieces, and I don't really know that we need this anymore. So you may come back to this video in 6 months or so, and the fact is I won't be using this software anymore. If that's the case, I'll leave a comment down below. But as of right now, we pay $15 per user per month for Basecamp to run all of our project management and communication internally. It costs us $120 a month in total. Next, I have something that's been really important to us, and that is Zoom. I've tried to wean our staff off of using Zoom as much as possible by having people in the room when we have our meetings and trying to pull back from some of the groups that are meeting online to getting back into person. But as of right now, we pay for 12 Zoom accounts at $16.99 per person per month. That's a total of $204 per month for Zoom. Yikes. All right, so that's the infrastructure. Let's talk about how we make things look good. Let's get into the creative side of things. So I already mentioned this one a little bit, but we do use the Adobe Creative Suite. This is another piece of software that has deep discounts for nonprofits. And while it's not free, it only costs us $20 per user per month. This includes everything from Photoshop to Illustrator to Adobe Audition and Adobe Premiere Pro. Those are the primary things that we find ourselves using at our church. We have 2 accounts, so a total of $40 per month is what we spend spend there. But if I'm being really honest, even our great designers at our church, we probably use this next software even more than we use the Adobe Creative Suite, and that's Canva. Yeah, even here at ReachRight, my team of designers often find that while they're really good at that sophisticated Adobe suite, they find that they're much better off just getting something done quick in Canva. And the great news is for churches and all nonprofits, it's totally free. And that's really it for the creative side, but let me now get into the category that I think most churches aren't spending anything on yet, but I think you probably should, and that is AI tools. There's 4 things that my church is using. The first one is Claude. I pay for Claude because I find that it is the best writing AI, and I find that it saves me a ton of time in drafting and editing and working on so many different writing projects that I'm doing as a pastor. I even use it in some of my sermon prep, and I did a whole video about how I do that ethically, so I encourage you to watch that video as well. Claude costs me $20 per user per month, and I think for most churches, you should probably have your main communicators have a Claude subscription. For us, that means $40 a month. Next up, we have ChatGPT, and yes, I pay for both Claude and ChatGPT. Now, it's a little bit different how I use the two. I use Claude more for writing tasks, and I use ChatGPT more for analytical tasks and creative tasks. We are getting to a point where ChatGPT, and specifically the Sora tool that they built, can make fantastic graphics that are almost ready to go live with for our church. So we have several people in our church using ChatGPT Pro. It's a good investment, I think. It is also $20 per user per month, so you can adjust it for your church, but a church our size probably needs about 5 accounts. Third, probably my favorite tool on this entire list that has totally changed my life is Whisperflow. I love this tool. It is a voice to text dictation tool. So I spend very little time typing now and do almost all of my communication via dictation. And make no mistake, this is not the same as Siri writing down what you're saying. This is really high level dictation. It doesn't just take what you said word for word, it actually takes it and formats it and tries to get the meaning of what you were saying. But if you're like me and you have lots of ums when you speak, or maybe you start in one, or you go to you move to a different direction when you speak like that, the tool is really great at taking what you meant to say and getting rid of all the vocal fill, and then it also formats it. In fact, this last sermon that I preached about 2 weeks ago, to get the actual sermon written, I dictated most of it to Whisperflow and had it do a lot of the formatting for me. Such a cool tool, and it costs $10 per user per month. I'm the only one using it right now, but I suspect that expense will grow. And then finally, I see more and more churches, my church included, using Claude Code. Claude Code is such a cool tool for making really neat apps on your church website. Right now, I'm finishing up an app that lets our church do spiritual gift tests online. It's so cool. Something that would have cost thousands of dollars for a developer to do a few years ago is done almost perfectly in a matter of an hour or two for no money. That's right. Claude Code costs nothing, especially if you have a Claude subscription already, you won't run into any limit. Okay, so that's the full stack, but here's the question is, what does it all cost? Let me give you a breakdown. For church management, again, Planning Center, we're spending $165 a month. For Sunday production, we're spending $20 a month. For communication, we're up to $140 per month for those 3 tools I talked about. For giving and finance, we're spending $462 a month, far and away our largest category. For website and online tools, it's a total of $97 per month. For office infrastructure like Google Workspace and Basecamp and Zoom, that's $324 a month. For design tools, we're spending $40 a month. And for all of our AI tools, it's only $150 a month. So the total monthly cost for our church is $1,398 a month. How does that sound? Does that sound like a lot to you, or does that sound like it's little? That's, again, for a 300-person church. Now, let me blow you away. That's $16,776 per year that we spend on software. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? But let me give you some of my perspective on this. First of all, in Hawaii, that is way less than 1 full-time staff member. That's 1 very part-time staff member for all of our software needs. If you were to break this down at our church on a per person basis, the total cost of this is $56 per person per year. So about $5 a month. That's what it costs on a per person basis for us to run our entire tech stack and have what I believe are great services, great communication, and great systems that make our church run really efficiently. But that gets me really curious. I want to know, what is your church using? Can you let me know down in the comments, is there something that your church uses that my church should maybe consider? Or maybe you want to try something that you'd heard about in this. Let me know in the comments about that as well. Also, I want to mention again, there were so many of these softwares that I talked about that are absolutely free if you are a registered nonprofit. And I did a whole deep dive on that gives you a breakdown on exactly how your church can get each one of those pieces of software. I think that's the video that you should probably watch next.